The summer before university, I took a part-time job at a car essentials store. It was just to earn some pocket money and get a bit of work experience. To my surprise, I liked it. The staff were friendly and my boss, a sharp, charismatic salesman, shared tips on reading people, pitching products, and closing deals. Some high-ticket items even came with commission. It was honest, satisfying work. But there was one thing I didn't expect: the name John. From my first day, I kept hearing it. "Watch out for John," the staff would say whenever I went upstairs to the storeroom. I figured it was some hazing ritual, a harmless in-joke. We joked around a lot, so I laughed it off. Even though I doubted the truth about John, the storeroom still gave me an odd feeling. Downstairs was alive with sound. Customer chatter, the rumble of engines, the hiss of air compressors. But the moment I stepped onto the staircase, that noise faded. By the time I reached the top, it was like the whole world had gone silent. The air was still. The shelves, packed with tools and parts, felt lifeless. The only sound was my own breathing, just a bit too fast. I blamed it on acoustics, imagination, nothing more. Then something happened. One afternoon, I went up to retrieve a bulky box. It was heavier than I expected, and I struggled to slide it free. My arms shook, and I was sweating when I heard the storeroom door creak open behind me. Relieved, I called out for help. A voice responded, just one word: "Sure." But no one came. After a few seconds, I turned around. The room was empty. The door was closed. I stood frozen, heart pounding. Then I bolted downstairs and told the others what happened. They only smiled, exchanged glances, and said again, "John." Even after that, I stayed skeptical. Maybe someone came and left quietly. Maybe I misheard. Easier to believe than whatever else it could have been. But I still had to go up there, especially on stock days. One afternoon, I was assigned to inventory a new shipment. I went upstairs with a clipboard and pen, started unpacking, counting, and placing items onto shelves. The room was hot and silent as always. Sweat dripped down my face as I worked. Then I heard it. A soft, slow roll. I turned and saw my pen moving across the table, on its own. It rolled gently, then dropped to the floor with a soft clack. I froze. There were no fans, no windows, no breeze. Then the clipboard, lying flat on the table, slid forward and fluttered to the floor, like someone had shoved it. My skin crawled. I felt watched. That night, over dinner with coworkers, I brought it up, half joking, testing the waters. They didn't laugh. One guy said he once dropped a box of nails, and when he bent down to collect them, saw bare feet behind the shelf. When he stood up, the space was empty. Another said he left his phone on the storeroom table. Later, he couldn't find it. When he called it, the ringtone echoed from above. His phone was sitting on the top shelf. He swore he never put it there. Turns out everyone had a story. Lights flickering. Whispers that vanished when you listened closer. A cold draft. Things that moved on their own. They'd told the boss. But moving wasn't an option. Rent was good, and the location perfect. So everyone just dealt with it. Some ignored it. Some got used to it. I only worked there a few months before heading to university. But every semester break, I'd drop by to say hi, and every time, I asked the same question: "Is John still around?" So far, the answer's always been the same: yes.
There's an old storage room in the basement of our school, one that people rarely go into. Even back when my brother studied here, there were already rumors that the place was haunted. I never believed them. One afternoon, my teacher asked our team to fetch some supplies for an upcoming event. As luck would have it, the materials were stored in that exact room. No one in the group wanted to go. And when a friend offered to accompany me, I scoffed and declined. The storage room was barely 7 minutes away. Even the restroom was farther than that. When I opened the heavy door, a wave of dust hit me. The air inside was still, thick, and uncomfortably warm. I fumbled along the wall until my hand found the light switch. A single bulb flickered to life overhead, casting a dim glow that barely illuminated itself, let alone the room. The shadows clung to every corner. I turned on my phone flashlight. It was far brighter than the ceiling bulb, and began searching for the supplies. As I moved among the shelves, the dusty air made me sneeze. Sweat formed on my skin. I started to feel short of breath, not sure if it was the stale air or the growing weight of the darkness pressing in on me. The silence was oppressive. My thoughts spiraled. I tried to move faster, wanting to find what I needed and leave. Suddenly, a bright, blinding beam of light shone directly onto my face from the far side of the room. I staggered back, shielding my eyes. It felt just like someone in the dark had turned on a flashlight and pointed it straight at my face. It was so intense, I couldn't see anything else. I called out, annoyed. There was no response. I squinted past the brightness, trying to see who or what was there. But there was no one. No shape. No shadow. Just the light, hanging in midair, as if it had no source. Before I could process what I was seeing, the light vanished. Darkness crashed back over me. The afterimage of the beam left black patches in my vision, but fear forced my eyes wide open. I scanned the area with my flashlight. Nothing. No movement. No figure. I stepped to the doorway and peered out into the hallway. It was empty. Then, behind me, the door slammed shut. I spun around and rushed to it. It wouldn't open. The handle twisted but didn't turn. I shoved it, kicked it, nothing. It was like the door had locked itself from the inside. Hands trembling, I pulled out my phone and tried to call my friend. The call connected, but all I could hear was static. Just as I was about to hang up, a soft voice whispered my name. Then, silence. I called again. This time, it didn't go through. I lost all sense of time. I kept trying the door, pushing, twisting, hitting it in frustration. My breathing grew shallow. The flashlight beam jittered in my shaking hand. Finally, after what felt like hours, I heard the creak of the door opening. My friend stood there, looking at me with confusion. "I've been waiting for so long," she said. "What happened?" I asked if she had answered my call. She frowned and showed me her phone. There was nothing. No calls. No misread notifications. Nothing from me at all. I told her the door was locked. I couldn't get out. She looked even more confused. "The door was barely closed," she said. "I just pushed it gently, and it opened." I left the room with her, carrying a small carton of supplies, the very thing that had led me to face all of this in the first place. The breeze outside eased my unease, but it also made me realize my back was drenched in cold sweat. I didn't tell her what had happened in the storeroom. I had no interest in adding another story, or rumor, to its legacy. To this day, I still wonder, if she didn't answer that call, then who did?
When my younger brother started growing from an infant into a 5-year-old kid, the apartment we were living in began to feel more and more cramped. There were 6 of us in a small space, and as we all grew older, it became clear that we simply didn't have enough room anymore. After years of hard work, my parents finally decided it was time to find a bigger home. Once they made the decision, every weekend became something I looked forward to. We'd all pile into the car and visit different show houses. It quickly became my favorite activity with my siblings. Exploring unfamiliar homes felt like opening surprise gifts, each house with a unique layout, a different atmosphere. None of us had experienced anything like it before. We'd excitedly chat on the ride home, after every visit, sharing our thoughts, talking about what we liked and what we didn't. Those moments, sitting in the back seat with my siblings, laughing and dreaming about our future rooms, became some of the happiest memories of my weekends. Then one weekend, we visited that house. It looked promising. My whole family seemed excited, everyone except my youngest brother. He stood frozen at the entrance and refused to go in. My mother stayed outside with him, walking him around the yard, trying to comfort him. After about 15 minutes, he finally agreed to come in, but only if my mother held his hand. And once he stepped inside, he begged her to carry him and wouldn't let go. While my parents spoke with the property agent, my siblings and I ran off to explore the place. The layout was beautiful. The kitchen had a skylight, and warm sunlight spilled into the space, making it feel bright and inviting. The living room was huge, perfect for our social, always hosting parents. There were 5 bedrooms, just enough for each of us to have our own room and still have one left over as a guest room or study. We dashed up to the second floor, playfully fighting over the biggest room. We joked, imagined, and played, completely caught up in the excitement. That's when I noticed a door. It was different from the rest. A small wooden door set low into the wall, almost like it wasn't meant to be seen. All the other doors were wide open, but this one was shut tight. Something about it gave me a weird feeling. Based on all the houses we'd toured, I figured it must be a storage room. Curious, I walked up to it. It was low enough that I had to stretch up on my toes to reach the handle. I twisted it gently. The door creaked open just a crack, and I immediately felt a draft of cool air coming from inside. I pushed the door, but it wouldn't open more than a few inches. It felt like something was blocking it from the inside, maybe a fallen broom or some old boxes. The gap was just big enough for me to squeeze through, but the darkness beyond made me hesitate. I tried again to push it wider, using more force, but whatever was behind it wouldn't budge. Just as I was about to give up, completely worn out, the door suddenly shoved back, hard, like someone was on the other side, pushing against it. I fell backward, startled, landing on the floor. As I scrambled to sit up, I watched the door slowly, gently, swing shut, as if someone were softly closing it from the inside. Heart pounding, I got up and approached it again. I knocked. Nothing. I reached for the handle, but before I could grab it, a violent pounding came from the other side. It was so intense, I could see the wooden door shaking. I stumbled back in fear, eyes locked on the door, too scared to even blink. The noise drew my family over. My parents looked worried and asked what was going on. I told them it wasn't me, that someone had knocked from inside. I pointed at the door and insisted someone was in there. They gave me confused looks. The agent smiled, probably thinking it was just a kid's imagination, and walked over to open the door himself. I warned him. I told him there was someone inside, and he wouldn't let the door open. But the agent didn't take me seriously. He casually turned the handle and pushed. The door opened easily. He flipped on the light, and the room lit up. It was small and completely empty. No broom, no clutter, nothing. Just a narrow space with a slanted ceiling that forced adults to crouch to reach the far end. Then, out of nowhere, my youngest brother, who had been silently held in my father's arms the entire time, let out a loud, shrill cry. He wailed uncontrollably. My father tried to calm him down, but nothing worked. He just kept crying. My parents apologized to the agent and rushed us all out of the house. Strangely, the moment we drove away and left the property behind, my little brother stopped crying. I sat in the back seat, still shaken, and tried to explain everything to my parents. I swore I hadn't lied. I told them everything exactly as it happened. How I opened the door, the strange resistance, the push from inside, the knock that wasn't mine. My parents looked at me and said they believed me. They knew I wasn't the type to make things up. A few days later, I overheard my dad telling the agent they had decided not to consider that house. We kept looking. Every weekend, we visited new show homes, and eventually, we found the perfect place, the one we ended up buying and moving into. It became a place full of warm, happy memories. I'm glad I have understanding and trustworthy parents. They never took my words as a joke, even when I was just a kid.